I first heard of Jack Murph the Surf Murphy after he won the East Coast Surfing Championships in 1962. The next time I saw his image was in the newspapers, where he was handcuffed and facing a long prison term. He had just pulled off the heist of the century and was about to walk. But that would not be the last time Murphy made the news for his crimes. He would eventually be charged with everything from inciting a riot to murder. As with everything Murph the Surf ever did, there were no half measures. I first met Jack in person many years later after accompanying legendary surfer David Nueva into Donovan State Prison in San Diego. There, we would accompany Murphy on what is known as the Bill Glass Weekend of Champions. Along with Murph is a band of some of America's most notorious criminals, all looking to shine the light of heaven into the darkest of hellholes. To my left is a mountain of a man with his blue denim shirt unbuttoned, revealing a swastika on his abdomen. Below the Nazi symbol, the words "White Pride" are engraved. I correctly surmise that he and those standing near him are members of a white supremacist gang. To my right are men from a rival gang. Two armed guards pace a catwalk 20 feet above us, but a world away. A sign near them says, "No warning shots. If something starts, it probably won't end without blood." We are in the maximum security wing of Donovan State Prison, where these and about 500 other men who have been convicted of violent crimes have gathered to hear Jack Murph the Surf Murphy speak about his fast times in hard crash. Earlier that day, Tino Walinda, a key member of America's most famous high-wire family, told of how his father fell over 100 feet to his death while attempting to walk the wire. What makes Walinda's story impossible to ignore is that he is suspended 30 feet above the earth as he tells prisoners about their own mortality. As he tiptoes with death, he is shielded from eternity by nothing but a quarter-inch cable. The act gets the attention of men who have risked their lives for worse reasons: anger, revenge, drugs, money. The words of Sandy Fatau, who once traveled with Jimi Hendrix, became involved with the Miami underworld, and hit rock bottom as a Harlem junkie before making the same U-turn as Murphy and his band of gypsies, seems to penetrate. All the storytellers have one thing in common. They had all but destroyed themselves before finding redemption. But it's Murphy the men are here to see, hoping to hear about safe cracking, prison riots, and how he pulled off the greatest jewel heist in history. They will not be disappointed. 62-year-old Jack Roland Murphy hits the stage like a teenage surfer jacked on adrenaline. His is a resume unlike anyone else's. Grew up riding waves in Southern California with surfing legends L.J. Richards and Phil Edwards. Classically trained as a concert violinist. Earned a tennis scholarship at the University of Pittsburgh, and later a high diving gig with the Barnum Bailey Circus. But the boy wanted to surf again, and when that desire was coupled with the cold Pittsburgh winters, he fled south to Florida's warm waters and good waves. Within a couple years, Murphy was ranked Florida's top surfer and the state champion in 1962. But Miami held even greater attractions for a restless, smart kid who acknowledged no rules. There was adventure in the wind and easy money to be made. Jack always made friends easily, and now some of them included mobsters who had ditched New York for fortune and fun in the Florida sun. These men liked Murphy and were impressed with his intelligence, skills, and work ethic. After doing a few jobs for them, he struck out on his own, and one October evening, he and Ellen Kuhn made their way to New York City. Once there, they feigned interest in the exhibits of the New York Museum of Natural History for hours each day. One evening they arrived and waited for the guards to make their rounds. Once the guards were out of sight, the pair scaled a steel-spiked fence that dropped down into a sunken courtyard adjacent to a tall building. Climbing a series of chain-link fence, they eventually reached the 125-foot wall, which they climbed using the rain gutter. They cautiously maneuvered around the narrow ledge that wrapped itself around the building. Just as they had planned, they were now directly above the J.P. Morgan Hall of Gems. Entering a research lab on the top floor through an unlocked window, Murphy secured the end of the 125-foot rope he carried with him after lowering the line to their destination and silently entered the building. The next 5 hours are a joyful romp in the park for the cat burglars. They ascend the rope to the top of the building and maneuver their way back to ground level. The next day it is discovered that the Midnight Sapphire, the largest black sapphire in the world, the DeLong ruby, the world's most perfect star ruby, the Eagle diamond, the largest diamond ever found in the Americas, and 23 other prize gems, including the ultimate prize, the Star of India, the largest star sapphire in the world with a 300-year-old history, have all disappeared from their cases without a trace. That night finds Murphy and his partner partying at the Metropolitan Jazz Lounge in Times Square, where legendary jazz drummer Gene Krupa is performing with his band. Nudging Krupa between sets, Murph says, "Krupa, you'd never guess what I've got in my pocket." Later, Murph rolls out with Krupa and his crowd to hear Herbie Mann in a private jazz session at the Village Gate. Thugs, thieves, pimps, and killers fall dead silent as Murphy speaks. Murph the Surf is a big-time prison celebrity whom they respect, just as they did his predecessors like Chaplain Ray and George Mayer, the driver who was behind the wheel for Al Capone's St. Valentine's Day massacre. Having served over 2 decades in similar joints to this one, Murphy understands the volatile nature of the men before him. Still, he shows no fear of them. "You think you're tough? You're not tough," he says, as I look for a safe exit and find none. White Pride's jaw muscles tighten, and some men assume threatening postures, ready to prove Murphy wrong. Then I recall having signed a release saying that the prison would not barter for my release if I were taken hostage. To illustrate true toughness, Murph tells about a man who was nailed to a wooden cross and never made a sound, taking the rap for us all. "Can you do that?" demands Murphy of one of the men. There is complete silence. Like a rock band forced to play their biggest hit single, Murph is obliged to tell the story of the big jewel heist and confinement. He speaks of his crimes and punishment, release, arrest, and rearrest, and is leading the biggest prison riot in Florida state history. By the time Murphy's rebellion is spent, he's looking at double life, plus 20 years for his various crimes. The story of his parole is miraculous, but only the outlaw portion of his malfunctional career is featured in the 1975 film Live a Little, Steal a Lot, aka Murph the Surf. The film, which becomes a springboard for TV's jewel heist genre, stars Robert Conrad as Alan Kuhn, Murphy's accomplice in the big heist. Murphy, who has all the charisma of James Bond, is played by Don Stroud, who paints Murphy as a dim-witted surfer boy along for the ride. But even those who believe Jack should have been given life without the possibility of parole realize his brilliance. Regardless, what Murphy considers the main story, how a career criminal went from a life of mayhem to peace through Jesus Christ, remains undocumented by the mainstream media. Murphy concludes with an invitation to accept Jesus Christ as White Pride's facial muscles relax. Most of the men, including White Pride himself, his crew, and their rivals, drift back to their cells to read, write letters, or dream of how they will spend their time if or when they leave this place. A man convicted of killing his wife tells a counselor, "I haven't cried in 25 years. Now I can't stop." Another man asks some difficult questions concerning the fairness of God. Some of the men unsuccessfully hold back tears as they hear Bible passages first read to them when they were young and innocent, a lifetime ago, by parents or a Sunday school teacher. An inmate asks Murph, "What are you doing here? When I get out, I'm never returning to this place." Murph replies, "I'm an expert at doing time. I served over 21 years in places like this. Since then, I've been to over 1,200 different prisons, preaching the gospel, and I've found that it doesn't matter if you're behind bars or not. If you're not doing God's business, you're still just doing time. Murphy continued down the road with a gang of some of the worst criminals this country has ever confined. These are the same types of pimps, prostitutes, hustlers, and gangsters embraced by Jesus Christ over 2,000 years earlier. Also on the roster are NFL stars, a world-class ventriloquist. The Weekend of Champions show has changed hundreds of thousands of lives across North America, South America, Russia, and beyond. Thousands today enjoy freedom because of what Murph the Surf calls the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. Coming from him, that's saying something. Murph the Surf passed away on September 12, 2020, but his work lives on. When we last spoke, he left me with the following words: "It doesn't matter if you're behind bars or not. If you're not doing God's business, you're just serving time."
Hey, how you doing? Hey, if you like this video, check out God and Gangsters. There's all kinds of other cool videos on there, and you get a variety of people telling their testimony, talking about life, talking about Jesus, talking about the past, and talking about a future and a hope and an eternal life. It's called God and Gangsters, just like the brim says right here. This is OG Taz coming live to you from Set Free San Diego, California.